He's from the equestrian class, which Americans would probably call the upper middle class. So he's not a total down and outer from the slums, but the Roman writers like to slur him by pointing out that his parents worked for him. He was the sort of figure that the people in the aristocracy tended to not want to associate with. He was kind of boorish by their standards. He was a ruffian. He was uneducated. And, the big thing that was sweeping Rome at this time was Greek culture. They had moved in and taken over parts of Greece, and one of the spoils that they brought back with them were the marble statues and the paintings, which have now for the most part disappeared, and the books and the dramas and plays and the actors and the teachers. They just brought them all back to Rome. So this was like the latest fad. And all the upper classes were having their children educated in Greek thought and philosophy, and they were going to the Greek plays, and they were becoming, by Roman standards, they were getting some edification. But that kind of edification was not for a guy like Caius Marius. This was a man who was known to stand up and walk out of theaters if the actors started performing a Greek play or song. That, by the way, would have just confirmed on the part of the blue-blooded nobles what a boorish, uncultured ruffian this Caius Marius guy was. But by doing that, he was aligning himself with a lot of other conservative Roman thinkers who believed that all this Greek culture was undermining the traditional Roman Stoic values, feminizing them all. And, in a sense, all that Greek stuff seemed like opera to the common man in Rome. And when Caius Marius walks out of there, it's a little like he's leaving the opera to go down and have a beer with the regular folks. And that was something that played well with the populares, and played even better with his troops. Caius Marius was a soldier's soldier. His ability to be one of the guys was one of the major things he brought to the table in terms of being a great general whose troops fought fanatically loyally for him. And the sources who may not even like him go out of his way to point out that this endeared the troops to him. Listen to what Plutarch says about him and how he had this complete opposite sort of a reaction on the part of the troops from these aristocratic Romans who would bring the lavish tents on campaign with them, and the sumptuous food for them, and they would order the troops to do things. Because remember, the people that commanded these Roman armies were their politicians too. Often their richest people. They were used to living a certain way, and on campaign they expected to live as much like that as they could. Caius Marius wasn't like that, and here's what Plutarch writes about him, quote, "It is the most obliging sight in the world to the Roman soldier to see a commander eat the same bread as himself, or lie upon an ordinary bed, or assist the work in the drawing of a trench, or raising a bulwark. For they do not so much admire those that confer honors and riches upon them, as those who partake in the same labor and danger with themselves, but love them better who vouchsafe to join in their work, than those who encourage their idleness." End quote. The soldiers that fought under Caius Marius got a nickname. They were called Marius's mules, because he worked them so hard. The reason they didn't seem to mind so much is because Caius Marius got right down in there and did it with them. Caius Marius always had a common touch relationship with the people, and it started very early on in his career. First of all, he comes up from, essentially, a group that would have been considered closer to the people than the aristocracy. He starts his job fighting in the ranks of the common soldiers, and we're told that his ambition, that all-important component of the Roman governing system, the ambitious fighting between gifted individuals, is going to create through competition the best sort of leadership. Caius Marius fights in the army of Scipio Africanus, the famous Punic Wars general. This is the Scipio, by the way, for the Third Punic War, the one who destroyed Carthage in 146 BC. His hero ancestor in the Second Punic War was the guy who battled Hannibal, also Scipio Africanus. In any case, Marius is supposed to have come to the attention of his superiors the first time by killing a barbarian king in single combat while his Roman superiors looked on. That'll always get you a nice recommendation in Roman society, by the way. You kill a barbarian king in hand-to-hand combat. There's very little that's better. If the Romans have a ribbon or some sort of decoration for that, that's the most coveted one. Plutarch cites an occasion which fired his ambition and gave him a feeling that he could be anything in Roman society, when a flatterer to Scipio Africanus in Spain said something to the effect of, "General, what will Rome do once you're off the scene? Where will it turn to for its great generals?" And out of nowhere, in a room full of Roman soldiers, he's supposed to have clapped Caius Marius on the back and said, "Perhaps here." That, along with what a prophecy is supposed to have told him, and people in the ancient world often put a lot of stake in those prophecies, made Caius Marius think he was destined for great things. So you get that happening, you get Scipio's, clap on the back and the blessing, and the next you hear from this Caius Marius guy is he's running for the role of tribune. Remember, the tribune of the people is one of those positions that represents the interest of the regular folks in Rome. There's 10 of them at a time during this period, and Caius Marius apparently needs the help of one of his, godfathers in this Roman system, as many of these people do, to get the job. And he goes to this one guy whose name is Metellus, and says, "Would you help me get the job?" And he says, "Yes, I will." Marius is elected tribune, and then he proceeds to take on the super powerful of Rome right away as a nobody. Remember, in Roman politics, especially during this period, you anger the wrong people and they'll find you dead in an alley somewhere. And yet this young Caius Marius, who had already killed a barbarian king in single combat, pushes this law that's going to be one of those reforms for the lower classes, sort of the kind of thing the Gracchus brothers would do. And the consul at the time, which is like their version of the president or the prime minister, and they have two of these at the same time, the consul, who's a rich, powerful man, says, "No, we don't like that idea." And so Marius, this young nobody who just got the job and needed strings pulled to get it, says to the consul, publicly, "If you don't support this, I'll throw you in jail." And then Marius turns to his benefactor, the godfather guy who got him the job, this Metellus character, and says, "Listen, you supported me for this job, are you going to support me over this law?" And the Metellus guy says, "No, I'm with the consul on this. I don't agree with you on this law." And Marius looked at him and says, "Then I'll throw you in jail." The Senate backed down from this nobody. What does that tell you about his personality right there? And he's one of those rare figures. You can actually go look at a statue that's purported to be the figure of Caius Marius. And it's one of those rare stone cuttings where you actually can feel the personality of the person coming through. At least I can. I feel like there's something that comes to life in the way he even looks when you get a feel for who this guy was. And I've always compared him in my mind. He always seems like that character, General George Patton. Not the real General George Patton, but the character played by George C. Scott in the movie Patton. And there's a scene that always makes me think of Caius Marius, the one where Patton is rushing through Italy and his army is making record-breaking time, and then all of a sudden the column gets held up at this little Italian bridge, and the actor playing Patton runs up to the front of the bridge to see what the holdup is, and his soldiers simply point to an old Italian male peasant trying to get his stubborn donkey to move off the bridge. And George C. Scott gets this incredulous look in his eyes, like you would let that hold up this major historical event, and he walks up to the donkey, pulls out the pearl-handled pistol, shoots it in the head, and has his men just dump it over the side, and then just says, "Let's get moving!" That's Caius Marius. He's the ultimate can-do guy. One of the books I read for this particular show was an interesting one that kind of tried to play the Roman Republic as a corporation. It's called Rome, Inc. And in that book, Caius Marius was portrayed as sort of the ultimate hatchet man CEO that you bring in when your company is in trouble and need someone to make the tough choices. And you may not like him, you may not like the tough choices, but if you need fixing, you bring in Caius Marius. And the first time Rome seems to turn in that direction that we hear of in the sources is in that frustrating, demoralizing guerrilla war that they're trying to fight amid the deserts and rugged mountains of North Africa against the Numidian people. Marius is there. Lucius Sulla's there too. There's a lot of famous figures on the ground in North Africa trying to win this war. And Marius is there because his benefactor got him the job working